The Hussite Wars were a series of religious conflicts and uprisings that overwhelmed Bohemia at the beginning of the 15th century. They were prompted by the execution of preacher Jan Hus, whose followers rose up in arms in 1419 AD. The Hussites, as they began calling themselves, marched against the royalists under the sign of the Chalice and rallied under the command of a one-eyed Czech warrior by the name of Jan Žižka. By 1419, Žižka was a veteran mercenary with a long military career, having been present even at the Battle of Grunwald. Today, we will cover his exploits during the First Hussite Crusade, as well as explain his brilliant strategy and innovative tactics of asymmetric warfare. Žižka took an active part in the defenestration of Prague in 1419, and when a mass of 400 Hussites left the city for a safer place, he was chosen to lead them. In order to establish a safe stronghold for the Hussite movement, Žižka decided to lay siege to Nekmíř Castle. However, before the fortress was taken, the enemy arrived. A mixed force of 2,000 knights under the Bohemian royalist Bohuslav von Schwanberg loomed over the 400 Hussites. Žižka's troops were outnumbered 5-1 and were extremely outmatched in training and equipment. The majority of them were townsfolk, men and women, armed with farming tools and with no combat experience whatsoever. But Žižka did not despair, and he came up with a plan to escape the royalist encirclement. He commanded the Hussites to man the 12 supply wooden wagons they had brought from Prague, and he led a charge into the overwhelming enemy. Among the fierce fighting, the Hussite rabble managed to divide the royalist formation, with 2 lines of wagons serving as the walls of the escape corridor. Hundreds of Czech peasants fled the battlefield, escaping Schwanberg's grasp. Thus, the Hussite force of Jan Žižka had cheated death. The skirmish at Nekmíř Castle was the first military confrontation of the Hussite Wars, and set a precedent for the use of supply wagons as weapons of war. Moreover, despite the fact that it wasn't really a victory but a kind of retreat, it consolidated Žižka's reputation as a competent commander among the Hussites as well. Now, if you're enjoying the video so far, I would like to ask you to like the video and subscribe, as I'm one person alone working to push this channel forward. Thank you for your support. Now, let's get back to our topic, shall we? After this failed attempt to take a castle, news came to Žižka from another band of Hussites who had succeeded in storming their own fortress. They had founded a Hussite settlement there and named it after the biblical Mount Tabor. Aware that the Hussites would enjoy a strong position there, he led his caravan of 400 people to Tabor. On the road, his second ordeal would take place. In March of 1420, near the town of Sudoměř, the royalist search party under Bohuslav von Schwanberg caught up once more with the Hussite caravan. Jan Žižka led his forces atop a nearby hill, where he awaited the royalist charge. He commanded the 12 supply wagons in the caravan to be placed protecting the flanks, and his best men stood in the center. Again, the Hussites were outnumbered close to 5-1. This time, however, they were slightly better armed, and the wooden wagons had now been optimized for battle and manned by handgunners. As Bohuslav's forces closed in, the Hussites braced for impact. The Imperial cavalry was met by the pointy end of the Hussite polearms. The fighting was ruthless and desperate. The Royalist cavalry seemed to be unable to break the Hussite formation, and soon a wave of foot knights marched uphill. Men, women and children fought and died side by side, but the Hussites did not rout or break. Throughout the day, the Royalist riders tried time and time again to break the Hussite resolve, but they were repelled on each occasion. Before sundown, Schwanberg's forces retreated for the day. Žižka was victorious once more. The Battle of Sudoměř was the second time the Hussites cheated death under the command of the one-eyed general. It's understood as the first pitched battle of the Hussite Wars, and it's remembered as the time 400 townsmen, women and children defeated a force of 2,000 armored knights. At this point, the Hussite movement had become a significant problem for the Holy Roman Empire. Pope Martin V declared a crusade against the Hussites, and in April, a large crusader army, 80,000 strong, marched into Bohemia towards the capital city of Prague. This army was commanded by none other than Sigismund of Luxembourg, King of Hungary, and since the death of his half-brother Wenceslas, King of Bohemia as well. The 12th of June of 1420, the 80,000-strong Crusader army arrived at the capital, and thus began the siege of Prague. Despite his advantage in numbers, Sigismund knew that if he wanted to take Prague, he would have to encircle it completely and starve the Hussites out. For this matter, it was imperative to take control of every surrounding stronghold, the most important of which was Vítkov Hill, south of the Vltava River. 1 month into the siege, on the 13th of July, King Sigismund organized an assault on the Vítkov, so the city could be finally sealed off from supplies and reinforcements. 8,000 knights, mainly from Austria and Meissen, crossed the Vltava River and dismounted before Vítkov Hill. On the fortifications, Žižka, tasked with defending the palisade, gazed upon the sea of banners unfolding in front of him. ZIZKA was joined by no more than 80 of his best men. Knights, gunners and crossbowmen, this elite Hussite force would face an army 100 times superior in numbers. Victory seemed impossible, but ZIZKA had won impossible battles before. The imperial horn sounded the advance, and the glistening tide of knights pushed forward. The attackers were greeted with powder and crossbow bolts. Soon, they closed in on the Vítkov. The fighting was brutal and desperate, as the Hussites took as much advantage of their defenses as they could. As per usual, ZIZKA himself took part in the bloody melee. Seeing their advance stalled, the imperial commanders committed wave after wave of their troops to no avail. From the gates of Prague, where the carnage could be seen by the Hussites, a slim detachment of infantry was sent to alleviate the pressure on the fort. The reinforcements clashed into the flank of the imperial forces, and plenty of knights were killed. Demoralized by the lack of progress on the hill, the surprise attack on their unprotected side finally broke the resolve of Sigismund's attack force. The imperial army lost all cohesion and disbanded towards the Vltava river, pursued by the zealous Hussites. ZIZKA, for the third time that year, has snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. His success at Vítkov Hill was more significant than it would seem at first sight, as it entirely thwarted the Crusader siege of Prague. Sigismund was running out of time, and his assault on the Vítkov Hill was the last chance of conquering the city. With his treasury running dry, the King of Hungary abandoned the siege, and the Crusader army disbanded. The First Hussite Crusade had failed by all accounts. You have a favorite battle that you would like to see represented in Total War? Make sure you leave it in the comments. If you stayed until the end and enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to my small channel for weekly Total War documentaries. I script, record and narrate everything by my own means, so if you could leave a like and a comment as a form of support, I would be immensely grateful. Thank you for watching and have a good day.